Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGillivray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. Please remember to follow us on social media and follow us on all the platforms where you get your podcast from, so you can get our content ASAP. How you both doing?
I'm good, thank you, mate.
Good, thank you.
Good. Was a bit of a heart wrencher or a bit of a gut wrencher on the weekend, wasn't it?
It was, yes, mate. I think with season tickets, I think they should give out defibrillators now because they literally get our hearts stopping every 5 bloody minutes. But yeah, to be fair, it was the only game of the round, though, wasn't it? All the others were so one-sided. It was a bit of a joke, really. But the boys did it again, left it to last minutes, literally. It was super thin, but yeah. Great result away because they're in form as well, and we can't ask for any more. 5 points and still first in the table.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Chiefs are back they're on the up, aren't they? You know, there's a lot of positivity around that club at the moment, having been in the doldrums for a couple of years. You know, they had, which is normal. You have great highs, European Cups, and then you sort of have your doldrums of rebuilding, and then they're well on the way there, and you sort of, when you look at the squad, it's not really surprising. I think there are a few players, sure, and I think what made them so good before isn't quite what there anymore. So it'll be interesting to see if they've got that ability to step up the next level. But we'll see. I think you look at the makeup of the two sides, and I think we had 14 academy products in our 23. And you think when Exeter were top of the pops, etc., the number of amazing young homegrown players that they had, I think that's such an important thing. And you look at the squad they've got now, and it's not quite the same. But anyway, that's a completely side note. Back to the game. I mean, I don't think I've seen us play as badly this year, and I don't think I've seen us play as well this year. Like, it was a real game of not two halves, but ups and downs, wasn't it, in terms of performance?
Yeah, totally.
I think if one of the teams hadn't, so basically, I think both teams were really scrappy and made mistakes like constantly, which is what ironically made it a good game. Because if you had one team that was making mistakes and the other wasn't, it probably would have been a bit more similar, I feel like, to maybe some of the other games at the weekend, like you said, where they were just not great when they really, but instead it turned out that we were sort of making the same mistakes that they were making, and so it kind of made it really more entertaining because it stayed close all the way through. But it is a little bit of another example of, I don't think we're quite as clinical as still as we'd like to be, but yeah, you can't really say too much about that when you've won away, like I said, got the 5 points in an away game that I wasn't really that sure we were going to win, but was also a must win at the same time, considering what the block looks like next, right? We've got, I think it's literally Bath, Leicester, Bristol. Luckily, 2 of them are at home, so it's not, it could be worse, but we've got like the sort of hard bunch before, I don't want it to be like a banana skin, but 2 simpler, on paper at least, matches like to finish off with. So we've got the kind of tough block coming, so it's a really good means to kind of, like I said, keep yourself at the top, but not just that, keep like 3rd and 4th further away. Like, I feel like that's more important than the 1 versus 2 at this point, because it's probably going to be close all the way through. But if Exeter had won, that closes the gap, and what you really want is to just get one of those top 2 slots, and that certainly is going to help with that. But yeah, it was very, very scrappy, but I think we had the much better bench, and I think that's probably what kind of made the difference in the last sort of 30 minutes. It was stronger than theirs, and as we know from experience of watching like Bath play other teams, we know what having the really, really big bench and having the better bench than your opponent can mean. But yeah, I mean, it did make for a cracking end, so I can't really be too sad that it was. I mean, we didn't lead at any point until the end, so sorry to Exeter, but not that sorry. But
you need to lead when it matters.
Exactly, yeah. But it being a draw, I was like, this is going to end up a draw again, isn't it? So we're going to draw with this team again twice in one season. So we can't. And then luckily that just absolute magic at the end, from like Dingers and Smith and etc. Like, yeah, I was able to make the difference there at the end. So yeah, it was ended up being like kind of an entertaining match. But at the same time, watching Saints and knowing that we can be a little bit cleaner and a bit more clinical than that is still slightly frustrating. But yeah, 5 points on the road, against a team that's, I think they said they hadn't, other than the Prem Rugby Cup final where they'd apparently rested lots of players, like they'd won the last 10 on the bounce, that home and away. So, they had a really good record going into that. So
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs are, yeah, like I said, they're a good side again, but that you wouldn't
yeah.
trade any of their players for ours. That's the interesting thing. And like you say, it's sort of the start of this really tough block because, they're the teams that are in contention at the end for the title. We're playing them back to back essentially, for 4 weeks in a row, which is, if we can come out really well out of these 4 fixtures, then that can only spur us on and give us the confidence to go ahead. And compete. I mean, I think the real big thing was the game line aggression and collisions that we just weren't really getting a grip of or winning. And I don't necessarily think it's physicality in terms of they were bigger than us or anything like that. I think part of it is just really intent and energy and aggression. And I think Sam Graham seemed to be the only forward who was really really going all hard at it, carrying incredibly well as he always does, and sort of going after it. Whereas there seemed to be a bit of sort of tentativeness with the rest of the team in terms of just put it on them, just go at them, unleash the aggression. The only person I'd carry that with was Wright, who put so much energy and an effort and aggression into things, but it just wasn't his day, was it? Like things bouncing off his face and missing a few tackles in. It just wasn't his day. But he you can't fault his intent or his energy or his sort of will, because he was quality for that. But it wasn't his day. But I thought the rest of the forward pack was really not at their level at all, really, in terms of that sort of aggression and going and taking the line, etc. Ultimately, until JJ and Pollock came on, especially Pollock. I think obviously Pollock's attitude is just first class, and having him there doing it seemed to shift a few other gears as well across the forward pack. Because I think when you take away Pearson, you take away Coles, you don't have Pollock, you don't have Langdon. He went off, when he went off as well. It's like that's a lot of mindset and aggression gone out the side, and it's not to say that the other players aren't top quality players, but it's like they're the people who are going to take the first step, and then the rest will jump in.
You also miss JJ. JJ carrying.
Yeah. Well, I think JJ adds a lot as well, and he's definitely keen as mustard. And so having him and Pollock come on makes a massive difference in it. But I think from a leadership go and get them point of view, Langdon, Pearson, Pollock, and Graham, in my view, are really and Coles are real drivers in that. And we didn't really have any of them other than Graham, so it was sort of I felt that he was sort of carrying the torch a little bit on his own. But then Pollock came on, and the rest is history.
He's obviously been practicing his celebrations, hasn't he, with his little clay pigeon shooting. Yeah, he was waiting for that. Blooming hell! But I feel is it? I forgot their fly half. Is it Skinner?
Yeah, Harvey Skinner.
Yeah. Was it Skinner? He bumped. Absolutely put him on his bottom, and then it's like, cheers, mate.
Yeah. I thought he'd butchered it a bit because he just ran straight at him.
Yeah.
Well, he probably knew he's bigger than him. He's like, I'm going through you, mate. Because if he hadn't, he would have got in trouble because was it Freeman on the wing? He just needed to pass it and he was in.
There was a penalty
on the wing.
Yeah, there definitely was a penalty.
He had to do it.
Yeah, I think Harvey Skinner just kind of, weirdly enough, is kind of a strange one because normally when you sort of get yourself in position early, you're in a better position. But I think because he got himself set and he sort of bent down early, and Pollock had loads of pace, he was just always going to just kind of shove him over. Like, it was just unfortunate. It was just one of those. It's a bit like JJ when he just swept aside. I can't think if it was first, but I'm sure it was Fissalar second, who had a really good game for Chiefs, like the whole way through. Just absolutely swept him aside like he was nothing. And we know he's not. They just made such big like I said, that I think the bench kind of made the difference. Really, kind of kept us in it, and was was able to kind of push us over the line at the end. Like I mean, we don't. I don't say this like very often, but like, and obviously like it was Mitch's first start back since his long layoff. But like there was a marked difference when McParlin came on in terms of like pace, and just ball to the line, etc. And the same for like I said for all the other people on the bench. Like they just made such a massive impact. And yeah, I think I'd said before Pollock had played a lot of minutes, so he was always going to be rotated. But at this point, like his stock in terms of just like a starter and what you're missing for 60 minutes instead of what he can bring you for 20, like totally outweighs, the impact off the bench. Like like we said before, if you can do that for 60 minutes instead of 20, like because at this point, like I think it said online, it was like death taxes and a Henry Pollock turnover, but you can probably add a Henry Pollock try to that as well. Like the guy's just everywhere doing everything, and you just can't. Yeah, you want to have that. Obviously, you can't start every single game; it's not possible. But yeah, I feel like we're finally out of the conversation now of like, oh, he's really good as an impact sub. I'm like, well, you can get it for potentially 80 minutes if he does a full game sometimes, like, and that's what you want.
Yeah, that carry was almost like the real technical ability there is the ability to keep on his feet, because he didn't sort of hit and drive through. He sort of it's like a jab. He sort of hit in but kept his feet so he could then step out of the contact. So he sort of
Yeah.
it's like he almost pushed him and pushed himself off at the same, rather than like I'm going to run through this man. He sort of jabbed him, got him out of the way, and got around him. But yeah. I think
it's like you said last week. So I was going to say, it's like you said last week. You don't realise how big he is. You just see him as still as that 17-year-old little scrawny lad that was quick. You don't realise how bulky and like how solid he is now, and he will run through people because he's quick, hard, and massive. So
I think that's it as well. Like he moves a lot, doesn't he? So sometimes it makes you think that he is light on his feet, but sometimes when someone's like light on their feet, like I said, you can mistake them for like maybe not necessarily being as strong, but he actually is. When he actually sets himself and he gets in. I mean, that like, one of the turnovers he made was just like textbook. Like,
yeah,
he does. He's. I always notice that like he's very. There's a lot of other players that don't. They don't show the release as well. But I don't know if it's because Henry's always getting in at the breakdown. But like he tackles and he puts his arms like as high in the air as he possibly can, so that the ref is fully aware that he's released before diving back in. And yeah, he made such a difference. I was at one point like they were mentioning him for. They obviously put the 5 players up, don't they, of like who the potential is for like man of the match, and they put him on there, and I felt like that was maybe a bit unfair to Finn Smith, who I think was second to me to Litchfield. But I was like, please don't give it to Pollock, like please give it to Litchfield. Like I was like, please make sure you do. But
thing is, Litch was outstanding. Like there's no doubt about that. But game changing, Pollock was like that. You mentioned that turnover. He had such an additional dimension because. He does sometimes make the tackle, show his hands, and get back in. But he also gives us that other aspect of he can sit just behind the defensive line, and he's in there in an instant. So he's not part of the tackle, but he's in there before he beats. He's so quick at getting to the ball that we don't have really anyone who does that. But then also there aren't many players as good as him at it around anyway. So like he's such a class talent, and you think of him that scrawny little 17-year-old. Not that he was that scrawny as a 17-year-old. He was just scrawny compared to professional rugby players. But he's to be in the position to get over the ball and withstand that amount of heat that he's getting when players trying to clear him out. It shows he's obviously a strong bloke.
Let me redefine scrawny. What I meant was he was just like a typical 17. Like he didn't have much muscle on him. He was rapid as anything, and he wasn't like as solid as he was now. I'm not trying to say he was scrawny. I just probably the wrong word to use.
Compared to a professional rugby players, you could use the word.
Yeah. But it's like you said before. Like say, he's 21, so like that isn't the strongest and the fittest he's going to be. Like there's still ground to be made up. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times before, like even about Courtney Laws, like a couple of seasons before he left us, they talked about how he put 2 stone of muscle on over the summer, and I thought, well, if you weren't already terrified of the bloke, and like he was, even a little bit older than that. Like, so you think about where Henry's got, what he can do in the next sort of 5-6 years. It's actually kind of terrifying in terms of like what the kind of specimen he can make himself. And like I said, the fact that he still does have the pace to go with it as well, like yeah, he's just such an all-round kind of complete player, and he's only 21 or whatever it is. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I mean, the 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 thing with it was it when you've got that group of backs together, there is this innate belief in the side that they can keep playing, keep finding edges, and keep scoring. They're never out of the game. That there's something about them whereby um, they always think they I don't think they ever doubt themselves, and it gives the whole team that amazing confidence. And you know, did I think it was going to be Finn Smith breaking the line and sidestepping Fairboso? Like, no,
Was,
you know,
was it sort of a
but
goose step as well? It wasn't just a side step; it was
Oh.
sort of like a half goose step side step. But he absolutely put him on it. Yeah, totally made him lose his balance. I was like, oh, he's going to hit him here. He's going to get him. But he totally, yeah. And the smile on his face when he went over was just nice to see.
it was such a weird attempt from Fairboso. To be honest, he's like, I'm sure he could have hit him, but
Stay on your
it's almost
feet
like
because he'll
like
catch
in a
him. Yeah.
training sort of scenario where you go, oh, I'm not gonna risk the sidestep to sort of to get him. He's beat me. I'll let him pass rather than putting everything on the line trying to beat him. I thought it was strange that attempt and line from Fairboso and that he was coming across. He was there. Like
Yeah.
how can yeah, it was a weird one.
What
Well,
I
there was
would
a
say
couple,
as well, adding to players, you got to say you can never say never if you got Hendy on the pitch. That boy, he just. We I know we mention him every time he plays, but the first try was it Mitchell's try, where he just managed to sidestep, bend, not human like, and went round past it to Litch. Litch did a lovely run, packed back to Mitchell. Was yeah, the
it was
boys. Yeah, it's just
it was
amazing.
crazy. I thought he was going to get hit by like two or three players, and then all of a sudden he's made it through. I was like, "What the hell?" Like, and we're watching it from home. I'm like, if we can't figure it out, and we've got all the camera angles, how are they supposed to? Like, it was crazy. Um, I think Hendy's an interesting one. Like, he definitely still like I said in the air, he wasn't great. Generally speaking, and I think he probably knows that. But that's definitely a bit that he's got to work on. But yeah, there was some very very nice stuff. Like you said, that Finn Smith try at the end was kind of weird from two levels because at one point I think they were trying to claim blocking because Fizzle had tackled. I want to say it was JJ, but I'm not sure if it was. He tackled one of our guys, but like you watch it from kind of the wide angle, and someone had talked about it online. Like actually, like the ball had already been offloaded before he makes the tackle, and it's almost like he chooses to make the tackle almost as if he wants to try and make the case for sort of block. Like it was such a very weird choice, and I think I saw someone online say it was quite a lazy attempt, really, at almost trying to buy a penalty, which they're never going to give you because you've made the choice sort of once the ball's already offloaded to sort of tackle that player and you don't need to. And they said that plus Faye were both it was all just very weird at the end. So it's like some of the choices they made in like the last few seconds was because I think like Thistle had a really, really good game, like ball in hand and in defence, like up to that point. But yeah, that was a weird kind of it was almost like you said, like he put all of his eggs in the basket of I'm going to try and buy a penalty here, but they were never going to give that as a blocking penalty when you've made the decision once the ball's already been offloaded to like tackle someone and try and do it was very bizarre. Like you said, it was like bizarre from sort of the both of them. Like I think there were sort of two people that could have probably tackled him, but we're definitely super happy that they didn't anyway, as it was. But yeah, it was
I
strange.
think I think it wouldn't have made any difference. I think the support was outside him anyway. So
Mm,
even if he'd let a hand or got close to him, he would have passed the ball.
yeah,
So yeah, blocking just wasn't a thing. I don't think. But yeah,
no,
um,
no.
yeah. But yeah, it's a weird one when you just look at it and you go, you think back to that first half where you're like, why aren't we doing this? Why is this performance not what we're used to? Why are players that we know are good and really good players not delivering or making errors, whatever it may be? And then you get that second half of the fight back and the spirit, and you're like, yeah, this is the Saints side that we've sort of
Yeah,
come to know now. And yeah, you got Hendy thing. I mean, he was running backwards at one point. You know,
I,
he was running
it,
backwards. He was getting tackled, and none of it worked. None of it made a difference.
no, I've said before that like one of the things that's really interesting about sometimes about watching Saints is like they're totally willing to go backwards if it means they can probe how to go forwards, if that makes sense. Like he was totally willing to run backwards for a bit because he knew he'd be able to somehow, because he always does seem to, he'll always somehow be able to suss that there's a gap or there's a way through somewhere. And Hendy's always such a good example of that, like the amount of times he'll sort of run backwards or like to the side. You think, what the hell is he doing? And all of a sudden he's 20 meters up the field. That's what he's doing. But yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
think
such a
sometimes
unique person to watch play.
I think he's running forward half the time. It's just the angles and the
Yeah.
weird universe. You think he's running backward. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. There was a lot of good things come out of it. I thought once again, that front row at scrum time looked pretty good. I think we discussed a few weeks ago that with Big Trev's absence, I think it's very likely that we're going to see Cundiona he's going to start now.
We said that, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, because scrum time is so important, especially if we're going to mix it with the likes of Chiefs potentially in a semi-final, or with Tigers and Bath, etc. going forward. That you can't, no scrum, no win, and I think Cundiona is the best option we have for making sure that's the case. But then also Manny is just on the form of his life, isn't he? Like the concept that we went without Fischetti and we still won. You're leaving one of the best performing international loose heads at the moment at home. Like the audacity or the sort of the luxury of being able to do that is really incredible.
Yeah.
It is indeed.
No,
it's like I say, we were talking about last week, when I think this is probably the best, strongest squad in depth we've ever had. Like, I've been going nearly 40 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a team that you can go, oh, we've lost the first choice, bring in the second choice, they're just as good. It's insane, and I'm just glad we're keeping them all happy, because they're all signing new contracts. Well, most of them are.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true to some extent. But like I said before, there are certain players that make this team tick.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not technical skill or physical ability. It's just their mental capacity or their aggression or their energy that just they bring that X factor. And we've got a number of them. Furbank's a key one. He's just ability to just keep playing and keep backing himself, keep backing the side. It's just unheard of. And unfortunately, we're not going to have him this weekend. But it's like he is the sort of the magic dust. That final little sprinkle of seasoning on everything. What he brings, it just turns everything into gold. But we just, once again, we're not going to have him. It just seems we can never get that long run of fixtures with him, can we?
Yeah. But I don't. It also kind of depends what they do, obviously, in terms of who they bring in and who they move around. Because I'd really love to see, obviously, like Pater is the newest one to re-sign a contract. I'd really like to sort of see, even if it's just like featuring on the bench. Yeah, that could be really nice. But yeah, it's a shame, really. And it's the thing of obviously you look back on the loss to Bath in the quarterfinal and you think, oh, that and it was gutting at the time, but we've just added 2 more injuries to the list, and it's already a decent sized list. It's not the level of like Harlequins, who I have an immense amount of sympathy for after the weekend, that they've now gone up to about 30 first squad players on the list. Like, we're not quite at that level, but it's getting to the stage where you think, like, actually having that semi-final and then that final weekend off can only really benefit in terms of rest, recuperation, like giving players an extra sort of week where they can recover if they need it. Like, it's actually probably going to be really beneficial, like continuing on where we are right now. But obviously Curtis, that's a long term one, I think they said, isn't it? With who was it that broke the hand? Pearson? Did he break his hand?
Pearson,
yeah. Yeah, so you just think, well, for God's sake, we're sort of getting to the list of, are we still waiting for Colsey to come back as well? That actually probably having that, it's not this weekend, it's next weekend, isn't it? Having that weekend off is probably beneficial in terms of, it's simply just less games with those people missing. Like, if Colsey's not available this weekend, like not having a game next weekend means that there's one week where there's no fixture that he's missing, and it's helpful if he can be back like the week after. Like, you'd love to obviously have done it and try to replicate or improve on what we did last year, but yeah, it's already a bit sort of hitting the limits of where the injuries are going to be, and we still have games to play. But I can't help but think that it might be a bit useful.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
we remember from the European final, a 50% fit Colsey is still better than most of the locks in the Premiership.
Yeah, he was crazy that game. He was crazy that
What was
game.
he injected in his
Oh,
knees or whatever it was, and he still got
mm,
man of the. Well, in my opinion, he was man of the match that game. I know he didn't win, but still. So yeah, but
yeah,
it's
it's
crazy. It's the joys of the sport, though, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's very physical, and the boys are massive now. So it's just was Curtis a thumb? Did they say it was a thumb injury?
think so.
mhm.
Yeah, I think he's
Yeah,
had
he's
a
had to operation.
specialist or whatever. Yeah,
He's
but
had
I
to have
mean, it's
another
just it's
surgery, I think.
amazing the side that didn't go to Exeter. You know, no Fischetti, no
Yeah.
Langdon, no Davidson, no Coles, no Pearson. Um, Pollock was on the bench. You know, that's most of the forward pack that you would say is first choice forward pack. You know, JJ was on the bench. Most of the forward pack that you would say is first choice potentially, other than Manny, I think, is close to edging that. But most of the forward pack that would start weren't playing.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
it's crazy
yeah,
to think that
mate.
you lose Pearson, but you've still got Kemeny, Graham, Chick, and Pollock. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
outrageous.
maybe that. I would say maybe that contributed. Not saying they're not quality players, but maybe that contributed to the forwards not working that well because they haven't worked together for a while. Because obviously you get a core that you play week in week out, and there's obviously, especially at line out, your line out calls, if they're not all the same players, it can cause a bit of conflict, can it? So maybe that was a reason. But at the
Yeah,
end
I
of the
mean,
day, we got 5 points, so we can analyse it all you like. We're still left with 5 points, and that's all we really
yeah,
want, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. Well, I think Dowson did that in the week leading into the Exeter game after the Bath game. He put a picture up. You know, he showed one of the amazing, like the Archie Parland try, and you know, and the no, the Dingle try, sorry, and some of the other amazing tries. You know, the Lockett try, whatever. And then he showed the Tom Dunn try and said it's worth the same points. You know,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter how you score. Sometimes it's just about scoring. But I think the difference is, you know, like the line out definitely was an area of issue, right? Really, we could have, we had so much that second half of the first half, we had so much dominance and so much ball, and we stretched them and we got one penalties and went down there. We just couldn't convert with the line out, and we probably played a lot better than the scoreline suggests. There are certain times where we really weren't accurate enough. But like you said, I think the way the forward pack didn't win the collisions in that first half as well as they could have, and struggled and weren't the side that we know that they are. Isn't necessarily because they don't play together a lot because it's new, but it's just the people who were missing,
That's what I meant.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
just
mental you know, it was like I said, it was like Graham was going over the top on his own, you know,
yeah,
and everyone was following him, but you sort of need two or three
yeah.
doing it, and then you know that makes a big impact. Sort of at this
That's
level, when we're playing a top team like Chiefs away at home in that bear pit, like you said last week.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like it's not like it's one or two missing. There's the key like first starters. There was quite a few, as you just mentioned, like your Pearsons, the whole front row. It's JJ didn't start, Pollock didn't start. So I'm not saying the ones that didn't come in were good enough to do that, but it like the basis of the team that have been doing it week in week out wasn't there, was it? So
Yeah, a lot of
it's
change.
just yeah, that's it. It's a lot of change, and you can understand
yeah.
why they were a little bit rusty. Let's say.
I mean, I must say though, I was really impressed with Prowse. Like that guy was putting in some big hits and was really getting himself involved. Like he's not one of the kind of like flashy ones. So you don't, he's not like a JJ who, is going to carry the ball lots. You kind of you notice a lot of what he's doing. But I was actually really impressed with, the shift that he put in. But it was just yeah. I think it's also kind of telling, like you said in a bit, that like there was quite a lot of like like players in the backs who were putting in like big defensive shifts, and like that's great. Like it's not good to see, but like I mean I've got the stats in front of me. Like Finn Smith putting 25 tackles in and only missing two. Like he was trying his hardest to kind of make up for some of the kind of. I mean he does that anyway. He's a
Yeah, but
big tackler
we
and stuff.
discussed
And I
that
thought
last week, though, didn't we? We discussed it last
yeah,
week about how important Finn is in our
Should
defence because you can't target him because he will make the tackles. You know,
yeah,
like because like we said, you when you have a George Ford, for example, or I can name a long list of historic tens who didn't fancy it in the tackle front, right? But if you have someone like George Ford, they're going to be targeted. Most attacking players are set off, send someone down the 10 channel because it
Yep.
gives you guaranteed go for a ball. Having Finn there negates that, but it doesn't mean that they're going to suddenly change their launch plays. They're still going to chuck it down his channel. However, he just steps up and absolutely smashes it.
I mean, Lich was the same, so it's really funny. But my mum mistook him for Ed Prowse multiple times because she thought it was Ed Prowse making the tackle and it was Lich. Like, I think him and Finn, like, they proper threw themselves into it. Like, they said, I thought Lichfield was like ridiculous, like in pretty much every aspect of the game. And then Finn wasn't massively far behind, like 20 carries, 25 tackles, only missing two. The try at the end, like, both of them put in massive shifts and they were so good.
Yeah, literally was quality. He's just on the form of his life. I think with that I'm a massive fan of Big Ed Prowse, right?
I was going to mention
And
it. I
it's-
was going
and
to
it's-
mention it. It's like Jess is bigging him up, but you're the man that loved him like a few years ago. We have to forget that he was a tight head prop. No one's forgetting
yeah.
that fact, right? He was
Yeah,
a tight head
it's
prop.
so funny.
I think I'm a massive fan of his and massive fan of Tom Lockett, but I honestly thought, and I don't want to be critical, but they weren't as good as they were at the beginning of the year. I still think they're finding their way back into form, and obviously Prowse played a lot of games at the beginning of the season, and then sort of JJ sort of came in, and we saw him flourish a bit, and Prowse sort of had to take a bit more of a backward step, although has played plenty of rugby. It's like
Yeah.
Lockett started amazing, then got a bad injury. It's like I feel that those two, not that they were awful or anything like that, they did perfectly well, and maybe you saw it better than me or whatever, but I feel those two have got more to deliver, and they're better than the performance they put in, because I think both of them are top players in the making, really.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah,
No,
you're right.
definitely.
Litchfield's an absolute animal. Like that whole back line. I mean, and it's worth saying, like we said about Exeter, and the you look at their side and the comparison to the side that when they won everything, it's a lot more signed players than built players. Whereas our whole back line, bar Finn, who we signed when he was like 19, is homegrown. It's
Yeah,
entirely academy driven now. It's just outstanding.
yeah,
Yes, and long may it continue, because it's the best
yeah.
way to go. But only when they get really good and get internationals and they require a lot more money, then we struggle to keep them all. But yeah, I'd
But that
rather
is
we keep
the
doing that, and it keeps the club ticking over,
yeah.
doesn't it?
I mean, it's the positive as well. Like I've like keeping Pater as well. Like Pater, choosing to resign and stay. Like, it certainly seems like it is continuing to continue, if that makes sense. And next year, obviously, they're going to be looking to re-sign Pollock and Freeman, and those will be huge to keep the both of them as well and kind of keep that going. But yeah, it's such a crazy place that we're in right now, to be honest. Even sort of some of the people that sort of are internationals for even like a Tadaro. You think about how old he only is, and he's from here. That yeah, he's obviously Italian, but you can still chuck him in with the sort of homegrown slightly, I guess, in terms of like how young he was since
Yeah,
having
14 he
been
joined
here.
the
And
club.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But we're doing such a good job. But
Maybe.
you're right. Obviously you can't keep everyone, but I think like that Pater adding to the list of like all the people that have and I know people Furbat leading always makes like the headlines, but to think about, that's got to be 10 plus players that have re-signed, probably more than
Oh,
that have
more
re-signed
than that,
this
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Like like that's ridiculous, because I thought we'd lose more than that. Like and obviously, like I said, like Fairbank and Ram, like they're obviously they sort of take the headlines, and you can say whether that's good or bad or whatever it is, but like I actually think that like the people we've been able to keep hold of is ridiculous. And if you can add like Freeman and Pollock to the list next year, like something is definitely going right in terms of where the club is right now. So yeah, we've done ridiculously good business overall, I'd still say, this year, kind of despite the fact that people do have to leave and move on. And Pater is such an exciting prospect. I'm really excited to see kind of what happens for him next year, because he's very possibly going to have to get chucked in maybe a bit earlier than sometimes you would throw someone in with no Furbs. Obviously, it depends what the club's doing business wise, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interesting, because it was interesting to see him on the bench against Exeter, because he covered, because Tommy was on the bench. So you basically had two back three players, on the bench,
Yeah.
and that means that I guess Furbank would have covered 10 or Pater would have covered
Yeah.
10.
Mhm.
But it's an interesting one that they didn't have Bellew on the bench, because if you think if you're going to have two outside backs, you're not going to you're going to go two outside backs. Tommy covers basically would have covered 12 to 15. So if you're having him on the bench, you could have had Bellew instead of Pater and cover 10 as well, but they went with that. It's an interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that they did that, but I think it shows confidence in Pater that
Yeah.
they clearly want him. And I think really looking ahead, you're probably going to go back three of Slytome, Hendy, and Freeman is going to be a first choice back three next year with Todoro in the mix as well. But Pater has got a better opportunity at Northampton than any other club to push to be at 15, because Furbank leaving opens a massive hole, and Ram would have been a natural successor as well, and he's gone. So
Yep.
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's like it said, it's also interesting with like Hendy, like where they see him, like I say permanently, but obviously a lot of them do cover positions it's like when they need to, but whether they are seeing him as kind of the wing option or the fullback option. But yeah, which like you said, having Pater suggests that he's going to get hopefully a lot more game time next season to really see where he is and where he's at. But yeah,
they bring
it's
different games, don't they? Because I mean, I know
yeah.
Hendy played, centre and 10 when he was younger, but he really is a back three player, and
Yeah.
have him in from 15 gives you amazing punch up the pitch. He can return with real interest, but he's not necessarily a natural kicker of the ball, or is he a natural under the high ball per se?
Yeah,
And
exactly
so
what I was about to say. Yeah,
having him as a winger with really tall bloke in Pater, who's looked pretty solid under the high ball, and also brings those sort of skills that you would associate with a 10, helps your distribution, which is what Furbank brings. It's interesting.
It is really interesting what they're going to do next year, because like you said, wings wise, like you've got to think that Freeman at this point is probably going to be wing more often, because like where do you put him in the centres with the people we've got? Like like we've talked before about, we mentioned some of the different, like, at this point Lichfield's almost making himself undroppable, but you've also got Hutch, you've also got Dingers, so then you add Freeman to the mix, you're like, actually this is too much. But then you have him out on the wing, you've still got like a Hendy, a Freemo, a Slights, you've got Todoro when he comes back, like, it's going to be so interesting what it is that they do next year. But you mentioned natural born kicker. I'll tell you who is a natural born kicker: Callum Chick. That 50-22 was obscene. That was outrageous.
How do we not mention that? Yeah, blooming hell.
Yeah, it just popped into my head when you said natural born kicker. I was like, hold on, I remember something. That was insanity.
Well, he just made it, showed how easy it is, really. Like, backs just make a big deal out of it, don't they? They make
It looked so easy for him as well.
The thing is, they're just natural sports people, aren't they? Like, I bet if you put him into the general population, he's probably a really great kicker of a rugby ball. But you put him against elite level kickers, and it's a different. It looks a bit industrial, in the way in which he kicked it. There was a real thud of it, but yeah, it was.
You can't tell me. I'm not trying to downgrade him. You can't tell me he didn't go, well, that was lucky, because it's a rugby ball as well. He's hit that and gone. 100%. He's gone, oh, I was pretty decent. That'll be on his highlight reel for his career.
I am gonna if he wants to get in contact and correct us, then please do, right? But I'm gonna say 50-22 was not what he was thinking. He was thinking, chuck this down the other pitch, chase it after it, let's put pressure on them. He was not 100%. Thinking.
But now he's done it. He'd be like, that was 100%. I was going for that. Now it's worked.
But there's no way they didn't replay that Monday morning, like on the highlight reel. There's no way they didn't. And then he said, "Yeah, I bet you." He's like, "I totally meant to do that." I was like, "No, you didn't."
Dow's probably give him a kick. I won't say B word. A kick up the arse for doing that, because he says that's not your job, boy. You're supposed to run with it, not kick it.
Now you would show that up against Finn shanking that kick off the tee, and you say, "Look, who's the best kicker?" Yeah. Anyway, massive game this week, isn't it? Massive game.
It is.
Yeah.
We've got them again at the Gardens this time.
We've got
revenge.
I think
But
sorry.
Revenge.
I was going to say
Just...
I'm not trying to say I really still think I'm still annoyed we didn't win down there because we were the better team. We played the better rugby, and it was just I'm not going to. It's not the two decisions obviously influenced the game, but if they were actually given correctly, I think we would have won a lot higher than the scoreline says. But at home, I still think they're going to rest quite. I don't know if Mr. Russell will play because they'll want that. Mr. Craig will be wanting to win that European Cup. It's going to be near on impossible to beat Bordeaux and Bordeaux, but I think
Yeah.
they'll rest their big players for that game. I don't think they'll risk, but they might because they'll probably. I don't know who they've got for the rest of the season in their fixtures, but
Yeah,
it gives
They've
us
also got-
if we
they
win,
rotate
what
anyway,
we
don't
six.
they?
You up?
Yeah, and
Sorry?
they've also got
They rotate anyway.
They do
Yeah,
rotate,
and then-
but if your big games, you're going to play Finn Russell. But I just think they might rest him for that just in case he gets a knock because they'll want to take him to Bordeaux.
particularly as they've got like quite a big trio that can't play this weekend, isn't it? It's Ajomo, Lawrence, and Spencer can't
Yeah.
play this weekend because of the injuries they've got. So I wonder if they're already thinking like we really don't want any more to add. Like I mean, we simply don't know because like we're not in their camp. We've got no idea what they're thinking about that match. But I would be surprised if they didn't rest and that they, if they didn't want to throw everything at it. But it's so hard to know because, like you said, it's one of those where they've probably got the hardest. They've got the hardest of the two fixtures. They've got the hardest team, I'd say, out of who's left in terms of to beat them away in their own sort of backyard, because obviously it's neutral, so it can't be quite in their backyard, but you know what I mean. But they've probably got the hardest one, so they're either going to be thinking that they've not got a shot or they are, and I think that will probably inform their sort of thing. But yeah, they've got some big players that just can't play anyway because of injury, so it is going to look probably slightly different as a team, just because it has to from that perspective as well. But yeah, I mean, it's really close, really close away. We nearly had it. You'd like to think that in this, and it is a sold out Gardens, it's already sold out. You'd like to hope that the crowd is going to push you to be the victors in that one.
Yeah, the thing is that what Charles just said about Exeter, and I'm not trying to be biased here. If you list the two teams side by side and put the best sides out you can, I don't think I'd swap any of the Saints for any of their players.
Well,
I think
I wouldn't with my heart swap any players, but
I didn't do it in my head.
I think they've got some world class, amazing players that are technically outstanding. I wouldn't swap Finn Smith for Finn Russell, but one of them started for the Lions and one of them didn't. I wouldn't.
That's purely on age, though. Surely that's experience.
Well, it's not. It's assessment.
He's the best fly half in the world at the minute, and he's one of the best. But for future, if you had the option to sign either now, you'd sign Finn Smith because he's already world class.
That's a different question again, isn't it? That's a different question again. It's like if we were picking a combined team now for this weekend, then I would pick Finn Smith. But I think with your head on, you've got to say, well, one of them's Finn Russell when he's as per the the Matchroom signing, he's the best player in the world. So
matchmaking.
Well, that was
think,
Henry Pollock a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There are a number of players that would slot into our side, and there are players who are international players that they've got who would come in and against players who we're picking that aren't international players.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't swap them. But you got to just sort of accept. They've got.
I'm going on our DNA, mate. I'm going on the fact that these lads have been worked up from kids into. So you bring one of them in, they're not got the same mentality. So I just meant for a team, the way the team plays, and I'm not being biased just because it's Saints and like you said, head or heart. There's not for playing a game. I would not swap any of their players for us. Finn Russell would be good at our ground, but he wouldn't have the link with Dingers with Tommy. Because
no, that's a fair comment, but like that's a real world piece. Whereas if you're talking hypothetical, who's the best player, then it's a 50-50, I'd say. But it's again at the end of the day, it's not sort of played on paper. It's played against two real sides, and I would say that we are the better side. And I think, funny enough, we'll probably take more confidence out of that loss at Bath than they probably take confidence because we should have won. We went down there and we outplayed them for long periods of time, and we should have won, and we weren't at our best. Whereas, if we hit our straps and we're playing at home at the Gardens, well, we should we would definitely back ourselves to be the better side. It's crazy to think that that's the case, but I think it is based on how we've got here and how we've got to the side, and them all sitting there at Farley House with their the side that they've signed and put together, full of world class talent, and us producing players like Hendy and Dingers and Ayogan from our own stock. They're just as good, and it's amazing.
And you also think about who's probably playing this weekend, right? If you've rested JJ and Pollock for the away fixture to Exeter, you've got to assume that they're coming back in. So you should be a bit more confident, like forwards wise as well as sort of backs wise. Obviously, missing Furbs is not fantastic, but you also think that having Smith back in is doesn't make up for it because they're not quite the same, but it's a benefit to have him in the way that he plays back. So yeah, I agree. I think as an overall team, we've got the better team. But like I said, I think they've got some absolute standouts, like Barbary being also an obvious one, who they're actually losing at the end of this season. Like they are losing a few, aren't they, who are moving on to different places. But yeah, I think, like I said, a lot of confidence. It's weird to say like a lot of confidence in the loss, but like we've beaten them away. We've almost beaten them away. Like, you'd like to think that at home you would have the upper hand.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Their back row, first choice or second choice, is insane. But I don't think I'd swap one for Pearson, one for Pollock, or one for Kemeny. I wouldn't. Not starting at the minute. The way they're playing, their Barbary was amazing that game. What's his name? Pepper. He was man of the match. Was he man of the match? He was my man of the match in that game. He was insane. But the way we play wouldn't suit those players, I don't think. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that because I think the way we play is built on a number of different factors, and Barbary as a good example. What Barbary gives you is game line win. He wins collisions. He gets you over the game line, right? So
okay, would you swap him for Pollock though?
I wouldn't swap him for Pollock, no, but
he's playing eight.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't start. Necessarily. I wouldn't swap him for Pollock, but there's space for someone who can get over the game line in our side.
Of course, I'm just on about hypothetically now. If we're playing, you pick Pollock or Barbary at 8. You're going to pick.
If I was picking a back row from the two sides, if I'm being brutally honest, technically who I think are the best players, it's probably Kemeny, Barbary, Pollock.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kemeny and Pepper is a very tight call.
Yeah, see, I'd probably be the Pepper Barbary Pollock, to be honest.
The only reason I would pick Kemeny is probably what Charles about to say is for the line out.
Correct, that's what I would.
That's 100%.
Because he's the best out of all of them at line out.
Yeah.
Because one thing, like I felt like we probably should have mentioned about the game as well, is that like we lost the first sort of couple, sort of thrown to the back, and then we threw to Kemeny for the next few, and it worked. We got the ball, and and then we decided. I think Wright decided to try and throw to the back again the next year, and it didn't work. I was like, you have sure, it's only one option, but I'd rather you had a safe, secure one option than you were trying things that just simply weren't working. Like it was pretty obvious that like Kemeny was the safe pair of hands.
The only thing I'd say with that is Wright's not calling the line out.
No, it's whoever. It's whoever.
Yeah. So Lockett was calling the line out, and like you said, maybe we should have gone to that front easy ball to Kemeny more than we did.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think we didn't the first couple and we lost them, and then obviously the call came in to like, right, just throw it to Kemeny at the front. We need to just secure easy ball, and I feel like once that's worked twice, you need to just stick with it. Yeah, sure, it's obvious what you're doing as a team, and you want to be able to have more options, right? Because it keeps your opponents guessing. But at the end of the day, you just need the ball first and foremost, right? That's what we work best on, is getting it to Kemeny, getting it into like Mitch's hands or McParlin's hands, and off we go. Like that's what it is at the end of the day. And like Lockett will learn from that, right? And like when Coles comes back in, I'm sure he'll be able to continue to learn from him and things like that. But yeah,
but it wasn't necessarily the bad option, because obviously going past the front jumper, going back gives you better attacking options, gives you a wider platform to play off, but more angles to play with. But and what he essentially did was back Wright to do what he knows Wright can do and what they trained to
Mhm.
do. Wright, like I said earlier, he had so much energy, class player, put so much effort in, just wasn't his day.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
wasn't
Yeah.
just the line out throwing, which wasn't up to his usual standards. It was a lot of things around the park where it was bouncing off his face. He was trying to catch the ball and it wasn't coming, it wasn't working. He was missing tackles. He was shooting out of the line. Right, it just
Yeah.
wasn't his day.
Yeah.
But Lockett backed his teammate to do what he knows he could do.
Mm. Yeah.
Maybe a more conservative approach would have been going, it's not working. Let's go for the easy ball at the front of Kemeny and
Yeah.
back
And
him
also
to get
probably
up there
just
quicker than the opposition.
and probably like you said, just like someone like Coles who's a bit more experienced and has had
No,
probably had those situations before where it hasn't worked. He's gone, right, we're just gonna have to do this because on the day this is what's gonna work best. And yeah, someone that's just a bit older, wiser, has played a little bit more and for internationally as well, just kind of understands that a little bit better. But like that will come for Lockett. Like you said, he's still a young guy. Like that
That's
that will
exactly what I
come
was
in
about to
retirement,
say.
right?
That was exactly what I was about to say. You're talking about lads that are still in their early 20s, aren't you? Like
Yeah.
they
I
play
mean, you
so
think
much
about
rugby. It's mad. It's madness that we're going like,
you
oh,
think
he's
about
like he's. You got
it's
sorry.
it's no, it's like about Parland, isn't it? He had that one really bad game, and he's just been the trajectory since then has just been ridiculous. Like sometimes you always learn from those experiences. I think people assume that like everyone's going to play and they're just going to be amazing like right from the start. It's like it's the rare sort of few that do that, right? Like everyone else, they take those experiences, they take those lessons, and they get better. And like I said, Lockett is so young. Like there's so much room for like growth and learning
yeah,
and like more
it's
experience. Like
it's really interesting because um, you know, Dowson has said numerous times around the whole side, you know, why you only have a plan B if you expect plan A to fail. So you have
mm,
plan A and you back yourself to do it. And he won't be applying that just to the way we attack. He'll be applying that across that
yeah,
mentality across anything. And so, to be fair to Lockett, they've got a plan on how they want to attack those scenarios, and he's trying to do it. And to sort of go, right, it's not going our way, you're slipping into that plan B, aren't you? And that's sort of not
yeah.
in keeping with the mindset that the club currently have. And you've got to take the sort of rough of the smooth of that because it's not always going to go your way, but you're going to have the moments when, because you've got that underlying sort of belief in your plan A that it's going to work and it's going to see you through it. As soon as you add plan B, you're doubting your plan A.
Yeah.
So by
Yeah.
removing the
Yeah,
doubt, you're backing
but then you
yourself.
should but then there's got to be a way that you can get yourself out of that mindset. Like the idea that having a contingency doesn't necessarily mean something is going to fail. Because like I wonder if that's been sort of our issue in some of the games where we've almost lost at the end and or we've been really struggling to kind of hold on to leads and things, is that sometimes plan A isn't just not working. It's like so far off of sort of working in certain areas that sometimes actually I feel like even in the games that we've come on to win, like with the Cast and Sarries ones, where Plan A just about got us over the line, but the concern was that what happened, like, and whereas like you have like Bath, where Plan A just really wasn't working in that last sort of 30 minutes or whatever it was, and yeah, it's a difficult one. Of like you said, I understand like the mindset of like if you have a Plan B, it means that you don't necessarily believe in Plan A, but I also think there's something in sort of having a contingency because I feel like that makes you a better sort of all-round team that you can because sometimes you think you know what's coming in a game, right? You've studied a team and you think you know what they're coming up with on the day. But Cast is a really good example. Like that performance that they put in was probably above the level that they have been in the top 14 based on where they are in the top 14 and in previous European fixtures. And I have a feeling that we sort of expected that team to show up again and they didn't. And we didn't quite know how to handle it in times. And that said, we just got simply lucky that we were able to score more points on the day. And it reminds me a little bit of Bristol, right? Their plan is simply score more tries than the opposition, and they never have a backup to that. They never have done. And then we saw that European fixture where they just got absolutely demolished because that wasn't going to work on the day with the opposition that they had. So yeah, it's one of those where you need to try and figure out sort of how you manage it, but yeah, I can see why you might think, the teams might think, well, if we have a plan B, it means we don't necessarily have confidence. But I feel like there's got to be a way to have confidence, but also understand that things can happen on the day that sometimes are even out of your control, and that it's best to have an idea of, well, what would we perhaps need to do if this situation arises, because that can just happen.
You've got to
Yeah, I
remember as
agree.
well, though. You've got to remember as well, though, is the fact that the line out, the set piece, the rucks, the mauling, they're disrupting it. The opposition are trying to disrupt it. So your plan is to throw it at that person. They'll be like, "We've watched the videos. That's where they're going to go." So you've got to remember that it's not always going to go down your way because the opposition are trying to disrupt your set piece, aren't they? So it's not always
Yeah,
going to work. Doesn't matter
it's
how
not
good you
always going
throw
to
it and
work.
how easy you lift him. If you don't throw it bang on and they don't jump at the same time, you steal it. It's end of. It's percentages in this game, so it's
Yeah.
not all down to that.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I get the fact that you've got to read the game, understand what's working, what's not working, and go out and win the game. That's the fundamentally important thing to do. But yeah, I think it's just I can understand why they've not done it because that
Yeah.
mindset is so ingrained in everything they do. Like you mentioned Archie McParland there, and he's talked a lot about how he's got his mind right, and that's what's changed his performances, and that's about
Yeah.
just backing himself. And so they've had so much success from just backing their skills, backing their ability, that you understand why they're not going, oh, maybe I can't do that. Maybe we need to do something different because I can't do it, or my teammate can't do it, so I need to do something differently. It's a minefield for them psychologically because, like I said, you get the rough and the smooth by backing themselves.
Yeah.
They've got the success. But yeah.
But I suppose I feel like what's maybe a bit different sort of like this season is it almost feels like our plan A has been kind of properly sussed out, if that makes sense. Like teams have, we've been doing it for a few years now. Like teams have such a good understanding of the way that we play and therefore the best ways to disrupt. So, sometimes maybe you need to sort of make changes here or there. But yeah, I totally get it. I totally get that you want that confidence, and they are a confident side. Like, even after, losing that game against Bath, I should imagine they were still confident about, Bath again, this weekend and Exeter away and stuff. So yeah, like I said, rough with the smooth. And I feel like that game was against Exeter was like a really good example of like the rough with the smooth, because there were some real rough moments, but like all of the tries, for example, were just really lovely, like definitely smooth.
Thinking about the team this weekend, I mean, I sort of think it picks itself by one position where I probably have a different view. If I go and run through what I think is guaranteed, and you correct me if you're wrong, right? I think Iogan will start. I think Wright will start. I think Condiona will start. I think JJ will start. I think Lockett will start. I think Kemeny will start. I think Pollock will start. I think Graham will start.
Mm-hmm.
No, see, I think they'll bring in Danny back.
You think
Because
Danilo? Yeah.
Danilo, sorry, I think.
Yeah.
At loose head, I think because he had a week off, I think he'll start. Bit Graham because he did have a great game. Yeah, I suppose. Is that the question? Is that the one you meant?
I reckon Graham Chick is. I think picking Graham over Chick might be seen as controversial. I don't think it is. I think Graham's outperformed him and therefore should start. But it's a tough one. He's coming back from injury a bit as well, remember. But I just think I think he's delivered more recently, and therefore I'd get him bring him in for his ball carrying.
But what about the 50-22? We need someone that can. I'm kidding.
Maybe put him in the backs. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Covering Furbank.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'd have Kemeny, Graham, and Pollock too.
And then the backs are the same, but Freeman comes in, Hendy moves to fullback.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, that's you just have to with that one, don't you?
I think that's default, isn't it? I don't think we can really do much else.
Pater could come in at 15.
Yeah. And there's always the question.
They do that.
There's always a question of like Hutch, but no, I look, Hutch is like incredible, but I also think that because you've already lost Ferbs, he becomes really important as cover for all of those positions as well. And then I also just think that the way that Litch played, I was like, good.
Exactly.
You can try and drop him if you want, but
he's becoming undroppable. You can't drop him. He's been amazing.
I do agree with that, but then I would also say, based on what you just said there, Jess, in the fact that because Ferbs isn't playing, we're losing the second ball player. Yeah, so if we're gonna have Hendy at 15, maybe having Hutch in the midfield is needed to help things get moving and help us move the ball, find those
Yeah, he
edges.
could be. Yeah, he could be
I
right
mean,
there.
toughest, like, it seems like every week Lichfield has a stormer, and then you're like, oh, is he going to play?
But
Like,
he can also cover wing, so he could be on the bench as backs cover, couldn't he?
or you just bring Hutch in and Lichfield goes to the wing.
Yeah.
But but then they're going to bring Tommy in, so
Yeah.
Slytone gets dropped potentially. Whatever, it's so difficult. I can't really. I think the obvious choice will be they just bring Fremo in and Hendy goes to fullback.
Yeah.
But horses for courses, part of me thinks they'll want Hutch on the pitch.
I mean,
And how you go about doing that makes things tough.
Perhaps having Lich on the, like, I'm such a fan of Ollie that and there's a lot of discourse around this that he's not quite been the same since the injuries. Like he's not quite hit the heights as he has before. So I also agree that there probably is an argument of like you maybe have Lich on the wing, and then like I said, it allows you also to have Hutch on the pitch, and that can but it just kind of depends what at the same time, perhaps what Ollie just needs is more game time, and so it could actually really benefit him from playing again. So like I said, I think the best option really would just be Fremo and Hendy, so Fremo back in and Hendy to the, but there's, again, it's just a case of like them causing headaches, isn't it? Like there's so many different permutations that you can have, and they'll all be good. So
there is an argument. There is an argument though that Lichfield's played a lot of rugby, so maybe he's due a rest. Maybe because he's
got to rest.
He rested against Bath, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good point.
So he's had his,
Yeah.
I said that performance at the weekend. I think that makes a case. I think that makes a case for him on its own. To be totally honest with you, I think you've got to have him on the pitch at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing with Slytone is, like you said, I think he needs game time, and I think if we're looking further down the line, what do we want to go into a final with? We want a fully fit, firing Ollie Slytone.
Yeah.
Our best team has a fully fit, firing Slytone in it. So how do we get to that scenario? And that's by playing him.
I will say though, I think he needs to take kicking practice from Callum Chick, because that clearing kick at 77 minutes is not a good kick.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It was amazing from Brown Bambo to just charge it down and unrelenting. And it's funny because that's the sort of attitude Ollie's got himself. He makes stuff out of nothing. But one thing, we didn't cover off with the Exeter game, and we don't want to cause controversial with referees. We've sort of got through this whole episode about talking.
We haven't mentioned the ref. The ref.
But someone who spoke a lot about the ref was Baxter. He had a lot to say about the performance of the ref during and after the game. But he not in a over the top way, but he did mention the ref. And one of the bits was the yellow card for Feaboso for the slap down. The ball didn't go forwards.
No, that I've watched it back. It didn't. No, but it did stop us, didn't it?
But he hasn't done anything wrong. You can slap the ball backwards.
Yeah. You can slap the ball backwards. Yeah.
So
it's one of those.
I would never argue with Baxter. He's a class coach. He's always honest. Like you heard him at the end of the game. He said, "Look, if you're telling me we'd actually be pinching ourselves, we just lost to a team like Northampton Saints this time last year, I'd be like, I'd take that." So yeah, he's doing such a great job. I don't know why England haven't gone for him really before now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a different job, isn't it? He's a really good. He's
he
perfect.
Likes man-on-man coaching week in, week out.
Yeah, and I think I think they're getting better because he's come back into the fold coaching, hasn't he? He stepped away, and it sort of as the way they thought it would develop. Get fresh ideas, fresh emphasis, and he stepped away, and it didn't. And he's come back in, and they're getting better again. I mean, he's good, really great because he wears his heart on his sleeve and is emotional and cares and says what he thinks, but he does it he doesn't lose control,
diplomatic way.
He was close to, I think, at the weekend, but he still, held his cool and said what he meant to say and didn't go over the top or anything like that. He's a class act. I mean, Chiefs are a difficult side to love, I think, but you got to respect them. They're difficult only because of the style of play and the bear pit. You respect them hugely, but it's a bit like Tigers to some extent.
Yeah, The thing is,
Yeah.
you say that, you say, what's the point in the TMO again then? No offence to him, but what's the point? If it definitely wasn't forwards, why has the TMO not looked at it and gone, actually, it wasn't forwards, just let it play on?
Well, that's a
Yeah.
conversation about consistency in
It's
our
a-
game, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
Because-
no, it was a weird one with the team. Because like I said, he didn't come in then, but I remember he came in with I can't remember what player it was and who it was on, which is bad. But it's been a few days. But the obvious like shoulder to head, and the ref went, "I want to look at the actions," and I think he said 19 black, and then he went, "Oh no, it's all clear." I was like, "It's not. it
we
shouldn't
did
be."
so well.
But
We did nearly an
but
hour
to-
well without mentioning the rest. Now. Look what you've done,
But
Trav.
I think
Look
it
what
was
you've
just
done.
but I think it's mainly a ref thing. Like to me, if a TMO says I want to check the actions of this player, like a ref should be asking to see that on the big screen in my eyes. So, but like I said, it's just one of those that different TMOs, different refs have different like relationships in the way that those games work, and it's just you have to kind of take it. You know, like I said, the rough
Yeah.
with the smooth.
I think next week maybe we'll introduce a segment whereby we beginning of the episode we just slag off the ref. I mean, and then we can
Well, we shouldn't be. 'Cause
we
when we win,
critique
and he's been
we
brilliant,
critique the
we don't need
performance
to.
of the ref.
Critique.
I was joking. Obviously, we wouldn't slag him off, but I mean, we would critique the performance of the ref, put it to one side, and then get on with it. It would get it all out in one
Yeah.
go rather than me
You
bringing
brought
it
it
back
up, mate. You brought it up
Yeah,
right at the
we
end.
did go the whole episode, but there was a clear error that actually was quite influential in the game.
I'm
Yeah.
normally the one that brings up the ref because it does my head in. I haven't mentioned him. I was like, nah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
you didn't mention it, sorry, because it's favoured us.
Well, I'm not one-eyed. Don't be saying that.
But then I also felt that like was it the charge down and Paul Brown Bampo like where he gave it as an on-field try and I'm really not convinced he should have given it as an on-field try because I'm not convinced there was an evidence that he actually touched it down, and so that probably didn't go our way. So it's one of those where the ref kind of had one that went that way, kind of one that went that way, but overall like I didn't really come away from it thinking, oh my God, that was horrible, which I definitely have over the past like few weeks.
I think
So-
Chiefs have a right to be aggrieved on that one.
Yeah,
But it wasn't bad.
yeah,
It wasn't
absolutely.
a bad performance either. Anyway, quickly some predictions. So, last week in size, carrying on his amazing form, he won that week, being pretty close to the margin. And very close to the score because it was 28-35 and you went 29-37. So you win that week again. What are we going?
I can't remember what my margin even was. I know I said two
Uh,
big scores, and that's not quite what it ended up being. So
Yeah, I mean, you went 45-47 and I went
Classic.
32-43. So
yeah,
I
we
went,
both said the nines, didn't we? Me and Simon for scorer.
yeah, and I said
And
Tommy.
then
so
and then
none of us-
and
none of
then
us got-
and then when Mitch got over first, I was like, yeah, amazing.
Was a good try as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, I don't have
yeah.
to worry now.
Yeah. If you'd got the margin as well, but because I got the margin,
Yeah.
he wins it.
I was going to
This
say,
week-
I was keeping quiet there because I was thinking, look, Parlin didn't score. Why is he giving me the points?
No, because that would have been the decider. If we're
Yeah.
level, so you get
Of course.
points. So you get
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
3
yeah.
points for getting the margin right. You only get a point for getting the try score.
Yeah. If only I was accurate if I was ever betting on results. I never am. That's the thing. On here, it's not so bad this season. I was awful last year.
You smashed it this year. Right, go on then, Jess. Prediction for the weekend.
No, it's hard because I don't know what Bath team are coming. But I'm going to go off the assumption they're going to rest some, but it's still going to be kind of close, I think. I'm going to go. I'm going to go 45-35. Oh, I'm going to pick Mitchell again because the nines seem to be doing some magic voodoo. So I'm going to go for Mitch again.
Yeah. Si.
37-25, Tommy. I already
Tommy.
thought of this about three or 4 days ago. I was looking at it. I'm confident. No one been an hour straight.
Yeah, it's interesting. Are we going to get another basketball match like those scores suggest? I mean, there's no reason to suggest we wouldn't.
Yeah.
The heart might not cope. I'm going to go with 32-21, and I'll go with Lich.
Yeah.
It's him or Ollie. Yeah, it was him or
Yeah.
I thought was a good option, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you said about they'll rotate players. They rotate players every week anyway, and like the talent they bring in is just as good. I mean, yeah, if they don't play
Yeah.
Finn, they'll bring in Carreras. He's one of the best players in the world. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe he
it's
didn't start against us in the quarter final. I was like, what the heck?
yeah. But that's the thing. They rotate regardless. They don't have a first team. They just rotate. And
That's
so
what you
like
get when you have a
Yeah.
backer that sells a lot of Hoovers. Oh, sorry, they can't call it that because it's Dyson, isn't it? But you know what I mean.
No, vacuums.
yeah,
Vacuums, there, vacuum cleaners. There you go.
yeah. We've
Vacuum
said it enough
cleaners.
times. Mentioned Dyson enough times. I think they should send us a few. But yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, thanks very much for listening, everyone. It's been a good chat to talk about the game just gone and the one coming up. It should be a cracker on Saturday night at the Gardens. It's what this game is all about. Those fixtures, and it's great to be part of them. Thanks for listening. I've been Charles, Jess and Jess, Simon's and Simon. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.